The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. A lot to get to today. Some basketball thoughts on the way with Jacob Padilla from HailVarsity.com and magazine. The professor, NBC Sports, Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman with us in 1 hour. And also Brady Oltmans with Hail Varsity. A couple of visitors this weekend to talk about as we gear up for a week from today. Busy next week for us as we're on the road at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate Thursday next week, and then Saturday ahead of kickoff for a Saturday special show celebrating the spring game. So mark it down. See us at the Single Barrel next week, Thursday or Saturday. A week from today, we'll be at the Hail Varsity Club for the Pipeline get-together. Those incredible linemen that won Coach Osborne's first national championship. That event at the Hail Varsity Club, 6 to 9 next Friday. We're there 4 to 6 in La Vista. But Elijah, a lot to get to today. You've been busy, man. You alerted me, thankfully, and I know you're a scratch bowler. Some are scratch golfers.
Not a scratch
Some
bowler.
are barbecue experts. Others just hang out and enjoy, or are weekend warriors when it comes to pickup basketball, or softball guy can go 3 for 4 and crank one out. You love bowling. Nebraska bowling for a title in about an hour. Husker baseball underway. I hate to break the news to you. They are down 3 Eastern, and you did your best Randy Johnson impersonation on the way to work.
Oh, yeah. Very, very busy. Let's start off with bowling, first of all, because as you mentioned...
briefly.
I am not a scratch bowler, but it is fun because the last time that Nebraska did win the national championship, and they have another chance tonight, I was down in the great city of Oxford, Mississippi, visiting my buddy Grant. So Nebraska won the national championship. We all threw on our Husker polos and went out and got a... rub it in to all the Ole Miss fans. Oh, when was the last time you guys were national champions in anything? Because this was before they won the college baseball national championship, obviously.
Sure.
So
timing is everything.
So we got to rub it in down there. Excited. Husker bowling another chance tonight. I want to talk with Bill Doleman about that. I know he's always been a big fan of what Bill Straub was able to build with the Husker bowling program and what they've become now since his retirement. So excited to talk with him. As for the bird story, this is great. I have always wondered whether or not it would be possible for me, like in a city. I've seen a buddy of mine hit a bird on a country road while he was
unintentional.
Speeding. Yes,
just act of God. Bird got in the way, didn't mean to.
Yes, yeah. So I've seen a buddy do it on a country road, but he was speeding. It's a little different out in the country. I always wondered if it was possible in the city. So today, as I was driving into work, I was leaving my neighborhood I wasn't even going that fast, probably 30, maybe 35. And these two birds were like chasing each other. And the first one flew across my car just fine. The second one flew in front of my car right as I was driving into it, and it bounced right off my windshield. I hit a bird in flight with my car. I didn't know it was possible. I found out today a very real and possible thing. It's an item crossed off the bucket list. I don't have to wonder anymore, folks. If you've wondered, it is possible. You can hit a bird in flight with your car, and I think the bird was okay. It bounced off. It took a bit of a tumble into the gutter, but then as I was looking at my rearview mirror, it looked to have gotten up and shaken itself off and walked away. So either it rubbed
some dirt on it, it walked itself off.
Either it's fine or it was in the process of slowly dying. I'm not quite sure which. I hope it's the first.
Either that or it's in concussion protocol in some electrical closet somewhere, which is good. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240. And can also email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com. Can watch the show different ways for you to do that. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio, Coffee and Cream, of course, 7 to 10. Weekday mornings with Damon and Andrew. Catch it there. And then we're taking you home 4 to 6. And then the KFOR Facebook and Twitter feed, also ways to check the show out that way. Crew is wondering, did you give the bird CPR? That's a negative. Elijah's got all his faculties right now. No bird flu passed along. We're okay there. It is recruiting. You're going to have a big visit list next weekend. Of course, the NCAA laying down the gauntlet, unlimited unofficial visits. That's cool. And the more Nebraska gets kids to campus in any sport, the better. But NIL is very real. And there are programs out there that have recruited traditionally well. There's urban legend out there as well, pre-NIL, of some pretty big investments that paid off, where there's the number one running back in the country, and you can go back to the 70s or the 80s. You can hear stories from coaches about how Herschel Walker was not allowed to leave the state to go on a competing visit to South Carolina from Georgia. Herschel ended up at Georgia, won a championship, one of the great all-time running backs of college football. I don't believe Earl Campbell was going to get away from Austin. I don't think Marcus Dupree was ever going to be out of the sight of an assistant coach in Norman, or maybe even the head coach. There's other urban legends about hiding players during signing periods, or hiding players, taking them to movies, just so when other coaches were supposed to stop by in the wild, wild west of the 80s, the kid wasn't home. There was no chance to sweet talk. And so I grin about it. And then, of course, Pony Excess is a 101 on how to flip a program illegally and then get hammered for it still to this day, you could argue, with SMU and the payroll to meet. So now things are legal. You can go get players through NIL. And the SEC's been really tough for years. I mean, the unfounded, or at least undocumented, way around the NCAA or paying folks is, could you get hooked up with a casino back in the day? Instead of cold hard cash, if you're taking a player out to go golf, do you drop a poker chip worth $500 or $1,000 or $10,000 right by the tee box? I mean, the stories are magical. I wish you could put, or I could put a team and player out there without any legal repercussion, but I got to speak in generalities.
Well, don't forget about the transfer of money in McDonald's bags a la Tennessee. That's another good one.
Well, alleged.
Well, you want some lunch, bud? Here's lunch. Go get yourself something nice.
We're allowed to get you lunch, son. Meanwhile, poor Eric Crouch, son, we don't know if your eligibility's intact because you had a ham sandwich on an airplane. So, listen, right now it's crazy, and you want the kids to be in for the right reasons. And that may vary at different programs. What's the right reason for A&M? What's the right reason for an SEC Power? What's the right reason for a Nebraska? What's the right reason for Colorado? Great national story on a player we really like, Gage Ginther. The Athletic did a big story, and all right, the rest of the world's running towards Dion, and the top in-state prospect said no to Dion. And really, really well done interview by The Athletic, really thoughtful answers, complimentary answers by Gage about Colorado, about Nebraska, and really why Tennessee. We'll get into that a bit later. But the right reasons depends on what your team culture is and what your head coach's mindset is. What does he want in a program? And how can you be different as a program, Elijah, in the era of NIL? You can be different and one of the haves with a large bankroll. You have a large collective. Nebraska's there. They have that. They have the fan base. They have a tremendous head coach. They've got a wonderful athletic director. The structure and infrastructure's there, but you don't want to spend foolishly. And it's not a guarantee. Are you going to get a top prospect and pick a position? You want a rush end? Do you want a quarterback? Do you want a running back? Do you want a hybrid defender? Do you want a safety? I mean, there's 22 starters, and then you need another 22 where there isn't much drop-off, so you can reload in about 3 years. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to look at the head coach, what are his priorities and parameters, and what I feel good about if I'm Nebraska, whether they land a class that's in the top 20, the top 15, the top 5, or the top 30, is the mindset of competition, because that's never going to go away, and that is the cement that's poured at the foundation of where Nebraska wants to go. Whether you're a 3-star, no star, listen, Rule's going to look at film, evaluate. His coaches will do the same, and they'll go get guys they like and want to compete. The thing that strikes me about Rule is look what Nebraska's done at the quarterback spot. You've got a bunch of guys that you think and can feel pretty good about being developed, right? You just haven't seen much of them. You've got a 2-year starter that's injured in spring ball in Casey Thompson that started and can play ball, did so at Texas, and was a bright spot right for Nebraska last year offensively. Yet Nebraska still goes out and gets a portal quarterback. No one's safe, and that's how it should be when you're trying to build a team and trying to maintain a team. And there's a lot of programs that have swung and whiffed and handed out dollars and cents where they're just no return on the investment, and bang, there's the portal. You look at Ohio State and Ewers. How many kids have left the portal, Bud, at A&M? And there's a lot of things lobbed at A&M, how they bought their team, right? Fellow SEC coaches have said that. But listen, you got to play the game. You're going to have to spend the money, but you want that money to go towards a kid that ends up being an Ndamukong Suh or a Tommy Frazier. Easier said than done, obviously. But I think Nebraska will go about it the right way, in a sense where they'll target the right mentality and personality when they bring a kid in.
Well, welcome to the new era of college football, and this kind of leads me back to
it's been an era everyone's adjusting to.
Well, and this kind of leads me back to one of the points I made yesterday about Kirk Ferentz, where I think Kirk Ferentz is a very, very good football coach, but we haven't seen how he's going to be able to adapt to this new era of NIL and the transfer portal. He hasn't necessarily put together a team that's been on par with his teams before this era of college football. So you have to wonder, how are you going to adjust to that? Because the fine line that all these coaches have to ride right now is trying to find guys, identify guys that have the talent necessary to compete at a high level, have the mentality to compete at a high level, want to come to your school for the right reasons, but also you have to know, well, I need to get a guy who wants to be here for the right reasons, but I also can't just hang him out to dry financially, because there's a whole bunch of other schools out there that are going to take care of him financially. And even though a guy wants to come to, say, Nebraska for the right reasons, what's going to happen whenever somebody swoops in and offers him $1 million as a freshman? And you're sitting there going, well, we love this kid. We love his mentality. We think he could be great here, but that's just not a number we can match right now. And I don't know the ins and outs of Nebraska's financial situation. But that's something you have to watch for in the NIL era of college football is that fine line of, how do we find out who wants to be here for the money and who wants to be here for the right reasons? Because simply put, the money is a factor right now. You should find the guys where it's not factor number one.
No, you put that beautifully. It's down the list. It's a byproduct of coming versus the reason for signing on the dotted line. What are the right reasons? First and foremost is connection. Do you believe what the vision is with your head coach, your position coach? Do you fit offensively or defensively? Do you believe they'll use you appropriately, make you the best football player, student, person, whatever order is important to you, that you can be? And then if your dream's to play pro ball, get off to the NFL, get developed to the NFL. So fit, connection, NFL, of course, life after football. That's education. That's a profession. That's a degree. That might be an advanced degree. It's important to want to go and find kids that want to win. That is thing number one. Back to the competitiveness is that foundation for Nebraska. You want to win every rep there is in practice. You want to win every Saturday you're out on the field, and you want to be part of a winning program. NIL's part of this because it can be life-changing money for some families, and for sure for the college athlete. And you should be able to make your sales commission, so to speak, on the jerseys and tickets sold.
Well, the amount of revenue,
that's what's been green.
The amount of revenue that you could potentially bring a university. With that in mind, say Nebraska brings in a kid who turns into an all-conference type player, a first-round pick. Name the position, doesn't really matter, but you're bringing in wins, you're bringing in revenue for the program. Kind of makes it like take care of your 401k while you're at Nebraska. You can do that. You can put all that money away. You can have your retirement sorted before you even get into the workforce, regardless of whether you're a 2-year guy in the NFL or a 10-year guy in the NFL.
Well, think about the residual effect that the Sioux era had as that 2009 season unfolded. What Ndamukong Suh did for Nebraska football, what Tommy Frazier brought to Nebraska football.
I still see 93 jerseys out there.
Absolutely. The Peter brothers, you look at the Wistroms, you look at some of the greats, and yes, they were teams, right? They were teams, they were guys that had one goal in mind, and that was to go win. But, we'll get into this next hour. How would you spend your NIL money? What positions of need?
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Jacob Padilla is with us. Catch him with Hail Varsity, hailvarsity.com, and magazine at Jacob Padilla _ Jacob, how's the week been, man? Thanks for the time.
Yeah, it's been a little bit busier. We finally had some news, so that was exciting.
It was. Let's start off with that, and we'll start with the big fella. When we talk about Mast, I looked at his numbers at Bradley. I've watched some film on him, and I can smile and say, man, that's good. You're the basketball expert. What do you think of Mast and his fit with Nebraska? What do you like about the Get for Fred and company?
Yeah, I was actually just watching, pulling some clips of him for going to put together a film study for next week on both the new guys. So, both kind of watching some tape here, and he's impressive in, I think, the way that he's going to fit a Fred Hoiberg offense, where he gives you the ability both to play through the post and also to play 5 out. He's not necessarily the ball handler, the true point center that Derek Walker evolved into. He's a good passer. He does a good job of finding shooters on the perimeter, and he can also find cutters and hit them through tight windows. So, from that aspect, he does bring some of that Derek Walker provided. He's a very good post-up player. Does that more than anything else, and he loves that jump hook. One of the best hook shot shooters in the country last year for Bradley, and he can do it with either hand. So, really comfortable in the post. And then he can step out and shoot from the perimeter as well. Shot 35% from 3. He's much better with his feet fully set than trying to shoot on the move. He's got to improve a little bit in the pick and pop game, but it is something that defenses are going to have to respect. And within that, he can make good decisions out there on the perimeter. If they give him space, he'll knock it down. If they attack and close out, he'll get a pump fake. He'll get downhill. He'll find an open teammate. So all those aspects, I think he's gonna fit into Fred Hoiberg's offense very well.
Now, Jacob, Nebraska basketball already has the Japanese Steph Curry. Rink is the Dutch who?
Oh, that's a very good question. I was not prepared off the top of my head for that. You don't see a lot of guys that kind of play through the post like he does anymore, and that is ambidextrous, can go with either hand. That's a tough one. You'll have to get back to me.
Just give me the pole geese comp, and I'm a happy guy. Give me the pole geese comp, and I'm a happy guy.
A little bit of Domantas Sabonis in him, I think.
Sabonis, okay.
Like if you want to make an NBA comp there, just in terms of the ability to really score in the post, to pass. can step out on the perimeter a little bit. So I guess off the top of my head, that's the best one I could come up with if you're looking for a really good NBA comp. But yeah, he's an interesting player for sure.
Jacob Padilla is joining us here, HailVarsity.com and magazines where you read Jacob at Jacob Padilla _. Two different podcasts you can catch on the Hurrdat family of podcasts with Jacob. So Mast is super intriguing. I love your take that he can kind of work the offense in the paint, has the range from three, but also is able to space the floor. And watching film on Bryce Williams, I loved how he got downhill. I like how he sets up and can come off of some screens and fire some threes. He's pretty diverse player with the drive ability, and then his outside game's pretty solid as well. And role-wise, Jacob, do you look at Nebraska saying, Williams, we're going to need you to come in here and start, or do you think he could be that sixth man? Tell me about his game and his fit as well.
Yeah, I think the word you use there that fits really well is diverse. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of things well to very well to excellent. Again, I'm watching this film and looking at their profiles on Synergy Sports, and you look at the different ways that Charlotte used him, where primarily it's spot-up guy, but outside of that, pick and roll ball handler, about 55 possessions was effective there. Running off screens, 48 possessions. He was excellent, one of the best in the country, 92nd percentile nationally there. As a cutter, he's really, really good too. That's 47 possessions, 88th percentile, excellent. Post up, 43 possessions, 76th percentile, very good. Can ISO a little bit, take some handoffs. Like he's good at a lot of different things. And watching the film, you see a little bit of the way, like completely different, like body types. But I could see him running a lot of the same plays that Fred Hoiberg runs for Keisei Tominaga. And not necessarily just plays, but like in the same spots, because it's weird. Like Williams is a 39.5% career 3-point shooter, but you watch him spot up. He's actually not a great spot up shooter. Like where he's elite is coming off screens. He shot 47% on 3-pointers running off screen. He does a great job of getting his feet set and loading up into the shot. That's again, like some of the actions that Hoiberg runs for Keisei Tominaga to get kind of quick hitting threes. I could see him running plays for that. The way that Tominaga reads defenses and cuts to the basket. Williams is a really smart cutter too. And unlike Tominaga, he's 6'7", 215, and can use his body and length to finish at the rim well. And he can run some pick and roll, handle the ball a little bit, much more of a scorer than a distributor out of that. But what he likes is getting to his mid-range pull-up. So that'll be interesting. It's not necessarily something that Fred Hoiberg loves. Like he'd much rather have shots at the rim or three, but it is an important counter to have for the way that modern defenses look to attack a lot of teams. And it's not something you want to be your main weapon, but having it is nice. And he is effective and really comfortable from that mid-range spot. And then you could post him up as well. You see him run a little bit of the Sam Griesel stuff where you can kind of invert your offense, especially with the stretch five like Rink Mass. You can put him on the perimeter, and if Williams has a nice matchup, you sit him down on the block, and he's comfortable there, whether making reads if they double or using his body and moves to get a shot up around the basket, or again to get to that mid-range step back. So just really versatile, effective scorer. I think you're looking at him as probably your starting three, and then you kind of can use him in different spots. You can slide him down to the 4 a little bit. He's big enough to do that if you want to go with some small ball. Play him at the 3. I don't know the kind of the one drawback. He's not overly explosive or athletic. So we'll see kind of how a lot of his stuff translates to the Big Ten level. I don't know that this is a guy coming in and scoring 20 a game in the Big Ten, but he is much more skilled and efficient than a lot of the guys that we've seen transfer into Nebraska during the Hoiberg era.
No, Jacob, obviously offense is sexy. That's what's going to get the headlines. That's what we're going to lead off talking about here. But how do these guys stack up defensively with Fred Nebraska and Fred Hoiberg did last year and what they're trying to be on the defensive side of things?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to the defensive tape just yet. I know, and talked to a coach over there at Bradley, like he thinks he's a little underrated defensively. He's not a great rim protector. They're kind of running the same problem with Derek Walker. He's undersized, not terribly explosive, not super long. So he's not a guy that's really going to shut down the paint necessarily. But he's smart, and he knew how he played a part in a very good defensive team over there at Bradley. He knows how to get to his spots. He's a good defensive rebounder, cleaning the glass, which is important to end possessions on the defensive end. So I don't know that he's an all-defensive type of player. And won't necessarily get a lot of attention for that side of the ball, but he's a guy that I think isn't going to be a liability on that end. He'll know where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to do, which is important, especially if, you'd like to have a 7-foot shot blocker at the rim waiting, but you can also be effective too if you've got 5 guys out there that are in the right spots, that are helping each other out, they're rotating, they're collapsing, and I think he can fit into that mold. As for Williams, I'm not quite sure yet. I think that's a question for him for sure. Again, especially you make that leap in athleticism. Don't know that he's super quick laterally, which will be a problem playing up at the 3 for in some matchups. But we'll kind of see, especially with a guy like Juwan Gary out there. You get him healthy, you play Williams next to Gary. Maybe that's a situation where Gary takes a tougher assignment between the 3 and the 4, and then Williams has enough versatility that at 6'7", 215, he could probably hold his own against some 4s that aren't the biggest threats. So there's some versatility there as well with his size, even if he's not a dynamic defender individually.
Now, Jacob, from both a scholarship standpoint and a roster construction standpoint, what do these 2 additions mean for the recruitment of Hunter Salas?
Yeah, I don't think much for Hunter. I think that's the situation where Hunter wants in, then
you'll figure it out.
In, and they've got the room to do that right now. Williams, you're looking at so you've got right now the biggest holes on the roster. The biggest hole on the roster is at the point guard spot. I think they're still going to look for some depth, maybe in the front court, not knowing necessarily where Blaise Keita, what he's going to be able to give you next season, just because the injuries, we haven't been able to see much out of the side. I think they'd like to have another big if they can get it. John Hewley is off the radar now. Once you get mass, you're probably not going to land 2 starting caliber 5s, so you're going to be looking for younger guys. But Hunter's a guy I think you take no matter what, and then figure it out. Whether you're running kind of a multi-ball handler set where you don't have a traditional point guard, you put him, you put Casey, you put Williams out there, and just kind of have guys share the ball, have Jamarcus Lawrence maybe run a little bit of point as well, and just kind of play a lot of combo guards. Or if they land someone like Javian McCollum, then you've got Hunter there as a wing option, playing off the ball. So I think right now they're in the mode where I think in that backcourt they're probably looking, all right, who are the best players we can get, and once we get them, we'll figure it out. Because really, McCollum is the only true point guard on the visitor list right now, and that does seem to be the biggest hole. So it indicates maybe they have confidence in Ramel Lloyd Jr. Being more of an on-ball player than a wing. Maybe they like Hunter Salas in that kind of slashing, ball handling role a little bit. Obviously, Latrell Wrightsell Jr. is visiting right now as well. So they've definitely got some options there, but I think Hunter's a guy that he wants in. You're going to take him and then figure out the rotations from there.
Jacob Padilla is with us from HailVarsity.com and magazine. Jacob, hang tight. I want to get a couple of thoughts from you on the other side, if that's okay, to hit spring football. That good with you?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, Jacob Padilla, when we come back next hour, Bill Doleman, Brady Oltmans, Elijah Judy, some commentary from him from spring football. Hail Varsity continues, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Well, I'm getting the evil eye from one pup here as I'm at home today. Junior's got baseball in about an hour or so. The heftier one wants to eat. She is whining. The German Shepherd wants to play ball. And the commercial break is done. Welcome back to Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Jacob Padilla is with us. Jacob, do you have any dogs?
I do not. Have not had one for a while, but everybody that has had one knows your pain.
Well, I see you have a turkey.
There's no pain. It's no pain. It's just not getting stared at here.
Well, a lovely pet turkey, though, Schmitty.
Yeah.
All right, that is good. That is real. I love the
artwork.
All right, those are the best. Those are the best. I love the. Let's. Jacob will grab some crayons. He'll sit down, and it's turkey time. I like it with the niece. That's so good.
We were talking. Jacob by himself on a Friday night, like not.
He's got the left hand out. He's just tracing around. Well, it's well done. Your niece is a tremendous artist, Jacob. I like it. So we were talking NIL to start. And we were kind of going down the reasons if you're a coach, what's your program about? What's your foundation? We kind of referenced it and related it back to Rule. He's all about competition, right? You're going to come in, you're going to compete every drill, every down, and it's a mentality he wants to build, and he wants practice to be heavy with competition. That's the want for a lot of high-level coaches. NIL is what it is, and it's awesome that student athletes are getting compensated, but it's also allowing some programs to get in the running because of their bankroll, and we'll see how that turns out for the kid. Yeah, you get the money. Are you going to either be able to get coached like you need to or take the coaching that you need to take? And I don't know that it's an endless supply of money at every program. Some are limited, some aren't. Jacob, what position would you spend on? Jacob, here's a blank check or several blank checks, and where would you focus? Would you go after the game-changing quarterback? Would you go after the next Adrian Peterson? Or are you going to try and go find a set of different offensive linemen to be just really killer on the ground and great at pass protection? Would you go try and find a Sue? Where would your top priority be? What position in NIL?
Okay, so you're talking more general as opposed to like for Nebraska specifically moving forward?
Yes. Yeah, general. I mean, if you're building, how are you building? What position group?
Yes. Yeah. You got to start with the lines. You got to get the guys up front. Like we've seen Nebraska's had players that can be impact players at some of the skill positions, and it just hasn't led to the wins you needed. You got to be able to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I mean, that's part of the SEC kind of the monster of a conference they've become. I mean, you look at the first round every year and how many SEC linemen, both sides of the ball, are up there, particularly defensive linemen. So I like if you're prioritizing, all right, we've got just this amount that the collective can offer. We got to take care of the lines first and then build out from there. So I guess that's where I'd start. But then also I think on a yearly basis, like with the transfer portal, if you're talking transfer portal versus high school recruiting, all that, like that's got to be more of a fit deal where you go out. All right, so we built up this part of our team. We've got this one hole left. We feel like we go land an impact guy, bring him in here. That can push us over the top, kind of like what they were hoping to happen with O'Shawn Mathis last year, even though that didn't necessarily pan out. Like that's this kind of situation where, all right, we know what we've got, kind of the main portion of this team. We've built up the offensive line with kind of the high school ranks. We got a couple other transfers here. Now we need to go get this impact pass rusher or this impact receiver we've seen with Samori Toure and Trey Palmer. Those guys have come in and made a huge difference for the team. So I think that's where you kind of build up the core of the team through the high school ranks. And then on a year-to-year basis, you reevaluate, okay, what are our biggest needs for this next campaign? And that's where you go into the portal and you hit it hard. And that's where you find your priorities if you've got limited resources to use.
And Jacob, one of the potential pitfalls, and I think we'll probably have to talk about this with the pipeline group next week whenever we're up at the Hale Varsity Club, but one of the potential pitfalls with paying offensive linemen a large sum of NIL money is the possibility that they'll spend it all on food. So that's something you have to watch out for. But Jacob, before we get you out here, let's
that helps the local economy, right? Just putting it back in.
Shop local, baby.
You give to the collective, and then it goes back into the community.
Sure, it's just a nice big circle. Yes.
Trickle down. But Jacob, before we get you out of here, let's talk some NBA playoffs. As play-in games conclude tonight, we have the Thunder taking on the T-Wolves as well as the Bulls and the Heat. Who do you like there? And then overall in the NBA playoffs, who do you like out of each conference?
So I'm gonna. I mean, the Thunder are a really, really fun story. I'd like to see. Yeah. I'm just looking at the Lakers Minnesota game. Obviously, Lakers got through, but that was such an ugly game.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go with OKC there in that one. Bulls are they. I did not get to watch that. I was heading to pickup game, but I saw they were trailing and then quite a bit, and somehow managed to, turn that thing around. That was part, I guess, credit to DeMar DeRozan's daughter in part for that one. He really kind of tricked that thing away. I guess. I don't really like either of those teams. Milwaukee's going to win that series in 4 or 5, I think, no matter who makes it through. So just take your pick for that one. I got to go with the homer pick and go with the Suns. I think if they can keep their guys out there long enough, I just don't think other teams are going to have enough answers. It's the game plan that worked previously to stop the Suns isn't going to work anymore because you've now got Kevin Durant instead of Mikal Bridges in that spot. So a little bit different thing to deal with. You double Kevin Durant, then you've got Devin Booker. You double Devin Booker like you have in the past. Good luck trying to slow down Kevin Durant one-on-one. And then you've got smart guys around him that know how to kind of play their role, even if they haven't totally locked in there. So go with the homer pick there. In the East, that's tough. I guess I'll go Boston just because of the Chris Middleton factor. It's just hard to be able to know what you're going to get out of him and that team. At full strength, we've got Middleton 100% to go with Giannis and Brook Lopez doing what he's doing this year defensively. That's a terrifying team, but I just don't know when the last time we saw 100% Chris Middleton was.
Jacob Padilla is with us, HaleVarsity.com and magazine. Jacob, thanks for talking some NIL, some NBA, and, of course, Husker Hoops, getting us caught up there. About 10 seconds. Anything this weekend, or are we looking next weekend for maybe a Hunter decision?
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to hear he's visiting next weekend, so maybe we'll hear something coming out of this weekend, but for the most part, yeah, got to wait through next weekend to hear, I think, on him.
And now, back to Hale Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, it's Hale Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. We'll talk more of the NAL discussion topic of the day. And what do you think Nebraska needs to invest in? What would you invest in a college football team? What position group specifically do you got to fund the most? And next hour we'll dive in a little bit to the Gage Ginther story from our friends at The Athletic. Really good rundown of Gage, and said no to Dion, liked Nebraska a ton. We had him on just 2 weeks ago. Tennessee, the right spot for him. He loved the plan Tennessee laid out for him. That really connected with him. Some comments there. Elijah Judy, a high-level recruit and portal guy from A&M to Lincoln. And I love what Jacob said last segment there, where from a development standpoint and NIL focus, yes, you're going to try and go pick some spots, i.e. quarterback and rush with O'Shawn and Casey. for Nebraska, getting a quarterback and a rush end. And then you got to develop and build your lines of scrimmage and then sprinkle in some of those air quote free agents or portal additions. Reminder to get buckled up. One of every 3 fatal crashes in Nebraska involves an alcohol-impaired driver. Why take chances? If you drink, don't drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. And we will spend time with Bill Doleman in the short term here, 10 minutes away with Bill Doleman. Talk some Big Red football with him. Brady Oltmans next hour as well. So the thing was, like, the number that was thrown out off record by an SEC assistant pre-NIL to me was anything less than $150,000 won't even get you a hello with a top prospect. And as cutthroat as the SEC is, I don't think that's crazy. That sounds about right.
Well, I guess you get into the Ohio State argument where how much did Quinn Ewers make for his freshman season at Ohio State?
Do we have a number on that? I don't know.
Wasn't the rumor $5 million for the freshman season alone that he then threw back in their face and went down to Texas where he's making a boatload of money? And then I think the number with Arch Manning wasn't it over $10 million for his college career? That's what Texas promised him.
I don't know, man.
And the question becomes similar to what's going down at Miami in Florida this year is our school's going to be able to follow through, our collective's going to be able to follow through on what they promise, but the numbers that are getting thrown around are absolutely astronomical.
Well, and what was the number for the Florida kid, the quarterback? $13 million?
That sounds about right, doesn't it?
Right, and then look, sorry, we're a little short.
We forgot the decimal is 1.3.
You know, the offering plate got passed around and we're just short. We told you 13. How's 2 sound? Forget you, pay me, I think is the quote from Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Actually, it was Ray Liotta. When it was time to have Paulie's money.
I don't think
he took over half ownership of the restaurant.
I don't think it was forget you. No.
No, I don't know. It is for this exercise. Don't forget us. Hour 2 is next. Bill Doleman, Brady Oltmans, Elijah Judy commentary. Hour 2 with Hail Varsity continues, presented by Currency.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. We're streaming the show where you can watch and hear us. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed, as well at H Varsity Radio. Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. The Professor Bill Doleman is with us. Elijah Herbel back in studio. I'm at home. Junior gets to the Diamond here in about 30 minutes or so, and I'm going to run over to Southwest and see if he's watching or playing. I've been accused on video here of pulling a Dean Martin here, that I'm starting the weekend with a drink already by Elijah and Doleman. No, this is some sort of stuff he had in the fridge that's untouched when he was battling a virus, so I'm not going to give you the name because they have not yet signed the contract.
But you show it on stream.
I know.
Those are good, by the way. That's the best flavor.
Yeah, they're really solid, and I do have vodka within arm's reach, so we might have a to-go cup. Well, kidding, law enforcement.
That's kind of like the old mix your vodka with Padilla. Because that is a sports drink. It's got electrolytes in there for you. You're taking care of yourself for the morning, Schmidt. That's what you're doing.
Well, yeah, right. Or Doleman, the dreaded Red Bull and vodka hangover, right? My Lord.
I thought maybe you found some secret stash of Tang, and you were making instant orange juice and maybe afternoon mimosa or something.
One thing I will not tolerate is any slander. Tang slander. There it is. It took me a second. I love
Who's been
Tang.
drinking?
One of the best pies you can make. Google it. A Tang pie. Some people tell you to use sour cream. They're wrong. Use the cream cheese. One of the best and easiest pies you can make. A Tang pie.
When I was a kid, you'd grab a spoon and you just stick it in the jar and just eat that powder, Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I will guarantee you this. I will guarantee you this. This is the only show, perhaps in the world, that is talking about Tang orange drink.
Yes,
And
Tang orange drink.
and maybe since the last moon mission.
That's fair. No, the frozen Five Alives were a favorite of mine as a kid.
Yeah.
Eat one of those things and just be wired for 7 years. Bill, busy week. Thanks for jumping on with us. And I want to start off and get your take. We kind of asked Jacob about it, Jacob Padilla. Elijah and I kicked off with it, and NIL's a reality. We know that. We know Nebraska's well positioned with their collective, and we know that it is not going to be free anymore to get high-profile players, be it rush ends, be it quarterbacks, be it linemen, linebackers, running backs. I mean, go through the list. And your take, what would you double down on? I know where you stand as far as an installment plan of $200,000 a month, $200,000 a month. I choke on that. You choke on that. That's probably the new normal at a lot of spots. Not just a Nebraska question, but a big picture question. If you're an AD or a head coach, do you go after the quarterback? Are you a lineman guy? Do you throw money at the lines of scrimmage? Or does it matter to you? You just find a top guy and try and get at least one top guy to commit? Or do you even go all in on somebody like that? Do you wait for the NIL discussion to be the latter part of the recruiting talk about signing the kid?
I don't think that can. I don't think you wait. I think it's all part of the open discussion from beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you want to structure your team? Nebraska is all in. The building on campus that's being finished is evidence of that. I've said that Nebraska wants to be a player. They're going to have Big Ten money. That doesn't go to NIL, but Nebraska wants to play. Nebraska is all in. So you have to have those NIL resources, and you have to be strategic in how you target your players and how you go about the rest of your class. If you say, we're going to go after, let's just say hypothetically, there's a star quarterback in, Arizona, right? And you're all in like everybody else is, but you got 24 other guys that you're probably going to sign or more, right? And I think that college football is entering into an era for the next couple of years where you're probably going to have some issues with locker room. And maybe that's why some players are, opting for the transfer portal so quickly. That maybe things aren't materializing. Maybe there's a disjointedness in the locker room with the chemistry on the team. I don't think that's been fully vetted as to what the NIL impact is. So if you're going to go after a star quarterback and you're saying, okay, now you are our two offensive line targets. Well, hey, we're the guys that are going to protect your, multi-million-dollar guy over here, right? So where are we in this scenario? So I think college football teams have to figure out how do we make sure that we can maintain some sense of decorum with everybody. And in college football, you have 3 times the size rosters that you do in the NFL. In the NFL, it's a business. You know who's making the money. You know who's making minimum, and you know who's in between. But when you are learning how to handle that kind of money and locker rooms that size, you better do a really good pitch to everybody on that team to understand you're all part of this, not just one guy.
Well, Bill, you mentioned the fact that the NFL is a business, but couldn't you make the argument that now college football is a business too, with the amount of money from TV rights deals, with the amount of money we're paying coaches, with the amount of money these players are raking in now? It's just the fact that these guys' first job coming out of high school is now being a college football player, and now the perk is you get a degree if you stick with it for 4 years. But we've reached the point now, guys. It was the joke with, I believe it was Cardale Jones back in the day. I ain't come here to play school. That's the fact now. Like, people are here to make money and win football games, and schools gets the back burner thing.
Right. It's always been a business. Don't get me wrong on that this is just something new. This is just like the next wing of the company. You've had, TV contracts, whatever they were, then they explode. You've got coaches' salaries exploding. And now you've got facilities that you have to play in on. And now it's the players. And then the next thing, and I've been saying this for a while now, the next thing is going to be a players' union. That's going to happen. Anybody who says that there's not going to be a players' union is kidding themselves. Now, in the past, there's been attempts, and it's been shut down. But that was when they were able to just not pay players. Well, that's all out the window now. So there are some people behind the scenes that are coming up with something that's going to be presented. I would, by the end of the decade, and it's going to involve not just football, but probably all athletes. So that's the next angle of the business, right? So you have all of those kinds of things that, colleges and coaches are going to have to be cognizant of when they put their teams together.
Bill Doleman's with us, Hail Varsity Radio at Bill Doleman.
Let me add this, too.
Sure.
And I think we may have talked about it a couple weeks ago. You're going to probably have a scenario where maybe the players are going to become university employees. Mm-hmm. And Mike Gundy's talked about having contracts right now. A scholarship is a 1-year deal, but maybe a player decides he's going to sign a 2 or 3 year deal with a school. Some might say, I'll take a 4-year deal, right? All of these things are the next iterations of what this business is, going back to when college, dating back to when college football became, the major player that is in sports entertainment.
Bill, let's talk about what college football is and the Big Ten has become through Jim Delaney and now a new commissioner fresh off the TV network background and School of Hard Knocks there where Mr. Petiti thrived. You know that world well, working for some major networks throughout your career. And what do you like about the Big Ten's new commissioner? What can you reveal to us about him that can make the Big Ten even better than it's at right now, $7.5 billion over the length of their new TV rights deal?
Well, I think going back to when Kevin Warren decided to go to the NFL, and I think we all think that he's probably trying to get himself in line to replace, to succeed Roger Goodell. But when that first happened, my first thought was they're going to go after a TV guy. Mm-hmm. And I thought, Mark Silverman's name was mentioned, and I thought it would be Mark Silverman, who was an executive. When I saw Tony Petiti's name, I thought, wow, that's a major player in the TV industry. And I've known of him. I do not know him, but I've known of that name and his background, and it's even more extensive than I remember it being as I've gone through and looked to see how this is best going to benefit the Big Ten. So it's a great hire for the Big Ten Conference, and it's a great hire, I think, because the Pac-12 has failed so miserably. Now, I go back to when they hired Larry Scott as the commissioner. I thought, well, that's pretty interesting because he was a Tennis Channel TV executive. He was terrible. All right, so you see one case of failure, and then they go with George Kliavkoff. And again, I thought, well, that's outside the box, and good on the Pac-12 for thinking that way because they're going to have to market themselves for the future. Well, that's turned out to be a disaster. But with Petiti, I think that they look at the Pac-12's failures and are going to say, this is the guy. We know what they did wrong, and now we have the guy that's going to help us do right. One conference's misery is going to be to the benefit of the Big Ten Conference.
But does it not seem a little late, Bill, the fact that the Big Ten just got done?
Lost you.
Sorry about that, Bill. I was just asking you if you think it's a little late to be bringing in a TV-type executive here whenever you've already got a TV rights deal in place. I know it's the future of college athletics, but he's not going to be negotiating anything, at least for football, for the next 10 years. Is that right?
Yeah, but look at all the strategic outlets that you could start to investigate. I mean, they've got deals with NBC and Peacock. Okay, so you have that streaming service, which is pretty low right now on the streaming service ladder, but you've got a lot to work with. You can grow that with NBC. You've got CBS Sports Network that might be able to tap into all kinds of different Big Ten conference inventory. They've got the deal with Fox that's been in a longstanding relationship with the Big Ten. And then you get innovative with some ideas. You know, right now the NBA is talking about doing a midseason tournament. Maybe Petiti and company look at this and say, you know what if we did something with a midseason Big Ten basketball tournament on the men's and women's side? Something like this. What can we do to help advance our Olympic sports teams and sports programs with all of the various entities that we have? He's a marketing guy. He knows what does work, what doesn't work. He's been successful wherever he has gone. So just the fact that you've got a new TV contract, that's the foundation. And now you build it from there with all of the sports properties and getting innovative with different scheduling things. And I think that this also probably slows down conference realignment for a couple of years, because I think he's going to come in and say, I want to see the lay of the land. I want to know how I want to create relationships with the partners that we have with all of the schools that are in the Big Ten right now. And then maybe in about 24, 25, 26, you start thinking, okay, who else comes in and joins us? I could be wrong. They may offer a couple of invitations next week. But I do think that this is going to give him an opportunity to figure out where and who is best suited for us other than Notre Dame. Okay, if Notre Dame says we want in the Big Ten, Notre Dame's going to get in the Big Ten. You know, one other relationship real quick about this TV thing, you know, it's all looked at as Fox as kind of the main one, and then NBC, and then there's CBS. Well, if you read some of the stuff about Petiti and Sean McManus, you know, McManus says that we're best friends. They were together for 12 years developing CBS's relationship with the NFL. So if you've got that close of a personal relationship with the president of CBS Sports, and now you've got, you know, a longstanding relationship with Fox and NBC, who is eager to make a statement on the college sports scene, I think it's a win-win-win.
Bill, quickly here, Schmidt, I just got a quick one before we let you go, Bill. Sure. Petiti, with that TV rights experience, all that's impressive, but I thought one of the most important and impressive parts about his resume was a United States Golf Association sanctioned 7.1 handicap. Kidding, not kidding here. How important is the game of golf to TV executives and conference executives? You always hear about the deals made on the golf course. Is that a real thing?
The golf course is the biggest boardroom, and it's the most popular boardroom. So I'm sure there have been a lot of deals between Petiti and McManus and Goodell and everybody else, you know, driving a couple of golf carts down the 18th fairway, perhaps at Pebble Beach, or dare I say at Augusta. I'm sure they're doing quite well for themselves in doing business for their teams while getting to play the best courses in the world. It's a big deal, man. But the best part for the Big Ten is the Pac-12's failures. They will learn from those mistakes, and they'll be better off for it.
Bill Doleman with us, NBC Sports, Pride of Fairbury, the professor at Bill Doleman on Twitter. Billy D, we'll let you get back to it, and we'll see you next week, my friend. I think there's a giant New York strip with your name on it waiting for you at the Single Barrel either Thursday or Saturday.
Amen to that. I hear there's a big football game in town next week, so I might go check that out with you.
That'll be good. Bill, you take care, bud. Thanks for the time.
All right, go Big Red.
There he is, Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman with us at Bill Doleman on Twitter. We're going to talk some spring football thoughts with Brady Oltmans. He's in the green room right now as Hail Varsity with you on a Friday. We'll get some of the streaming and connection things cleared up. Go feed the hamsters in the back room, Elijah.
I've been kicking the computer. Do you think that's going to help us?
Is it yours or is it mine?
Your guess is as good as mine here, bud.
Pick. All right, Brady Oltmans, promise you, next with Hail Varsity.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time at Hail Varsity Radio on a Friday. We're presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Brady Oltmans with HailVarsity.com and magazine joins us. Find us as we're streaming the show on Twitter, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio, where you can follow there. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and Brady hunkered down in his football office. Brady, how's the week, man? Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem. It's, you can't ask for a whole lot better weather right now for the middle of April in Lincoln, so we're doing just fine over here.
Give it about 5 hours, and we'll meet for a drink at a park. I promise you. A lot to get to. I want to start with some spring football. And yesterday, a couple of defensive linemen spoke. Of course, Stephon Wynn and Elijah Judy. What's your outlook for both guys? New staff, new coaching, new D-line coach for Wynn and for Judy, as Judy's a transfer in from A&M. But, best case, what are the type of numbers you think those guys can put up in this Coach White defense?
Well, it's going to be interesting. Numbers-wise, I'd expect them both to kind of be around the 20 area. I mean, Stephon Wynn hit 22 last year. That was a career high for him. He was more of a rotational guy at Alabama before coming over to Nebraska. The thing that kind of makes me curious and gives me pause or even raises their ceiling on tackles is really going to be how much of a pass rush or any sort of penetration does the edge rushers and linebackers get. Elijah Judy mentioned that, he's cool just squaring up with the center or guard and just eating that and then taking a double team, triple team. He believes if he beats the center, his job is done. And then he just absorbs every other block to free up other guys other guys around him. So opening up opportunities there could potentially give other guys tackles and take away from, the stuff Judy and Wynn are doing. But I think both guys, they look really good. They look really solid. Both praise Corey Campbell and his strength and conditioning staff about the work that they've done. There's still a lot of work that they want to do, before summer camp and fall camp come around. But at this point in the spring, they're feeling pretty good about things.
Brady Oltmans is with us here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. You can find and follow Brady on Twitter at Brady Oltmans. Is where you go for him. And Brady, one of the things that we heard from both Coach White and Elijah Judy yesterday was the focus on stopping the run before you can get to the pass rush. Both those guys kind of spoke about how much they like what Nebraska can do from a pass rushing state of mind, that they have some guys that think they can do it. But the emphasis was saying, we have to get a third down first. That's what we have to worry about right now. Do you think that's a concern of Tony White and this defense, that ability to stop the rush, or is that just trying to instill a mentality within a defense under a new coaching staff, trying to tell them, I know you all are great pass rushers, but it doesn't mean anything if you guys don't focus on stopping the run?
I think it's kind of a reiteration of the fundamentals. I mean, that in drill work, they're basically taking everything back down to the fundamentals, and they're going back to basics basically. And they're trying to do that to build up to see where guys fit in and also build confidence at things. So I think part of that reiteration to that is to instill the mindset of attacking. And that's a big thing with Tony White's defense, is just attacking. They like to be aggressive, not only blitz, and try to neutralize the run game, but get pressure on the quarterback. And all of that starts mentally and preparedness, in the spring and summer first and foremost. And then they need the horses and guys to buy into it and get after them. So I think that there might be some truth to it of how good does your pass rush need to be on 3rd and 1, if you're facing 3rd and manageable all the time. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's, more than anything, I think it's more of a circle in the wagons mentality thing rather than hey, we need, it looks like, based on what they're seeing in spring ball that they're worried about. I don't think it's that.
How are things shaping up on the recruiting front for Nebraska this weekend and the big weekend next weekend with the spring game? Of course, the summertime going to be big for Nebraska. They've been great traditionally at getting unofficial visitors in during summer, spring, winter, fall. I mean, pick a time of the year. Nebraska's done their work, and now that will become unlimited, which is really nice for Nebraska because they value time on campus and evaluation there. But a name that's kind of popped on the radar today is Ty Anthony Smith, linebacker out of Texas. Jasper's the region he's from. His pursuit continues to rise. What do you know about Smith, Brady, and also any surprise visits or any names you're still kind of waiting on? Because Nebraska right now, I don't want to say their momentum's cooled, but two of the targets that we thought could be long-term gets for Nebraska are no longer on the board.
Well, Ty Anthony is a really athletic kid. He's got a good motor to him at the linebacker spot. I almost said defensive backfield. That's not quite true. Although he can drop back, he can step into the box. I've talked to his high school coach because he got offered about the same time a couple of guys from Jasper did. So he's a really dynamic, motivated tackler. Really assured. You don't have to worry about him tackling in the open field. He does that well. And I think that's a good fit for Tony White and his defense. In terms of other visitors, I mean, at this point, you'd almost think that they'd have more guys lined up, but they've also done a really good job of basically keeping the doors open the entire spring of getting guys in whenever they're available to. So maybe that detracts from a couple of bodies that they'd have in, but also knowing this coaching staff, in both of the recruiting windows, they recruited right up until, the 11th hour. I mean, they were really getting guys in and going for them until midnight. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if, within the next week you see like, oh, the weather's looking good, or, so your schedules fell apart here and there. Maybe you could come to Lincoln and see how that's going. That all kind of depends. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they get another rallying group of recruits, maybe at the back end of this weekend or something, to push forward into obviously what will be a heavy recruiting centric summer.
Brady Oltmans with us here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. And Brady, the transfer portal opening back up this weekend. What do you foresee there? Obviously, I think people expect some attrition from Nebraska's roster with the way that they're over the scholarship limit. That's to be expected. But there's also the potential for additions. And I want to get your take on what Husker fans should expect. Do you expect movement early? Do you expect some more movement following the spring game? Because I think it's almost guaranteed that there will be some movement either to or from Nebraska.
Yeah. Odds are they're going to have some movement. They have to because of scholarship caps and everything like that. So if Husker fans see transfer movement, don't be surprised in the least. I'd be surprised at this point if there is much movement before the spring game. Just the way that the window falls down, you get the first week of the window during the last week of spring ball, and then Matt Rule and the coaches want to meet with each and individual player on the week after the spring game. You might see a couple here and there beforehand, but I said it before to a couple of coworkers. I think maybe the 25th and 26th, that Tuesday, Wednesday after the spring game is kind of a good barometer of, all right, guys have had their meetings. They see their future or potential future plans from the coaching staff. Maybe they vibe with it. Maybe they don't. Maybe there's more separating themselves from the playing field than they want, which is kind of when they'd hit the portal. And keep in mind, the portal window only applies for entries. Guys can be in there and they don't have to commit by the time the window closes. They can enter and then hold out for a little bit longer. So I'd see some sort of movement in there, more outward than inward. But Rule kind of alluded to looking at offensive line stuff. He says that they're fine right now. It's a little less deep than typical Nebraska lines are, but they've looked at getting some sort of depth, and they want to build some sort of depth there. If they get much addition, I would see it on the offensive line to build that depth. But there's no individual one right now, and it's just one thing that's kind of standing out there. Nobody I know about the tip of my tongue.
And Brady, with that portal with additions, it seems a little late to try to be bringing in a starter and a guy who's going to play regularly. Do you see them maybe looking at some depth guys whenever you talk about the offensive line, just with how much of adjustment it's going to be coming in late July and stepping right into fall camp?
Yeah, I don't know if you really expect somebody to come in and get you snaps right away through that portal. Although I'd be curious to know, with the furious coaching carousel that happened, in the winter, and guys now getting used to their new systems and things, you might see a little bit better quality of player, or a little bit higher caliber of player, I should say, up in the spring window. But I wouldn't expect to have Nebraska get an immediate starter out of this portal window. I think building depth is first and foremost, especially knowing Rule and the coaching staffs want to develop guys. They want to get guys in with years ahead of them so that they can get them in the program and build them up.
Brady, what position group or room would you see the most attrition potentially from Nebraska? Do you worry about some big names for Nebraska? And what position group are you thinking there may be too many bodies in that room?
Well, the one that pops out is the secondary. Matt Rule's mentioned it a couple of times. He said that he joked one day that they've got more cornerbacks or more secondary guys than any team in the country. So that kind of stands out to you right away. If you're able to say that kind of offhanded, there's a chance that there's just by nature going to be a lot of separation between a guy and the playing field in that area. I'd almost say quarterback too, just in the addition of Jeff Sims. You've got Torres is playing well. Heinrich is playing really well this spring. Chuba looks good. And then you've got Logan and Casey that are in gold jerseys, standing on the outside looking in. Maybe they feel differently about their futures than they did coming into spring ball, kind of thing. And six scholarship quarterbacks, that's a lot. I mean, that's more than most programs have. So I think by numbers wise, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them moves on. Maybe at running back as well, although I think that's only because maybe some guy thinks that he's got a spot to be the number one when it's a pretty competitive field for the number one spot here at Nebraska. But I don't know. That's not to say anything about the quarterbacks or running backs there. I just think that those are positions that you see guys kind of out of nowhere maybe fly in to get a premier spot somewhere else.
Brady, last thought here, 10 seconds. It feels like spring in Nebraska this weekend, maybe for the first time. 80 degrees today, rain tomorrow. It's a quintessential spring weekend. What's your quintessential spring beer of choice?
Ooh, that's a summer shandy.
All right. Good work. Well, make time tomorrow. We'll have one.
Sounds good to me, man.
He's like, done. All right, Brady Oltmans. Find him, HailVarsity.com and magazine. Get him on Twitter at Brady Oltmans. B, thanks for the time, bud. Good to get caught up. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem. Good to talk to you guys.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Brady Oltmans. Podcast going to be available for you if you're just catching part of the show or want to catch on your time. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity. And find us on those platforms. The full show or whatever segment you want to hear. You want to hear about Brady and recruiting or some spring football thoughts, do that. And also the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can watch the video. Check it out there. The Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter also is where you can see us live on video. So Husker baseball getting it done. 8-3. They fell down 3-0, and then doing their best. Chicks dig the long ball tribute to Maddox and Glavin. Nebraska going yard. It does look, as I look out the old kitchen table window, a little cloudy. Some storm chances, at least in Lincoln, a little bit later tonight. And then wonderful. Stephen complimenting the summer dew and summer look. I'm off to baseball in about 15 minutes. But who's counting? Weekend edition tomorrow at 7:30. Myself, Mark Cranack, Elijah Herbel. I promised for 48 hours reaction and thoughts to Dennis Dodd and his sit down with Matt Rule. We'll do that tomorrow. We spent a lot of time talking NIL, okay? And what would you prioritize? What position would you prioritize if you're in charge of NIL? And you saw Nebraska last year strategically go after an experienced quarterback. Casey Thompson's a good ball player and a guy that you better pray not jump in the portal. And I don't think he will. I think he would try and win the job first before making that decision. He does not have an opportunity to get that job because he's injured right now. You went and got Mathis a year ago. Showed up big time in the fourth quarter of the Iowa game. I will take that. And then right now, you look at Nebraska and what they have in the portal, and it's a guy that can go compete and win and be part of that offense that Rule wants with the running quarterback. And then they've got guys, Elijah, post-spring, if they can keep that quarterback room somewhat together, let's see what they do. With some more development under Rule and where they want to go.
My 2 cents on this topic is that it really matters whether we're talking NIL money for high school kids or NIL money for transfer portal kids. Because whenever I am thinking about the transfer portal, you want a ready-made guy, and that's why I think like offensive line. You go shell out some money in the transfer portal with NIL for your offensive line, but I'm not sure you want to do the same thing for high school offensive linemen because whenever you look at high school offensive linemen, I mean, how many times?
Like 3 years.
How many times do you see? That's exactly the development takes a bit. How many times do you see a 3-star end up being a first-round draft pick in the NFL? It happens more than you'd think. It's less easy to predict the development of an offensive lineman, at least in my opinion, what I've seen. And maybe you'll talk to a football coach and they'll disagree with me. They probably know more than me, but it takes time to develop an offensive lineman. You don't really know what you have until this kid is 20, 21 years old. So why are you going to shell out all that money for a high school kid whenever you really don't know what that development could and should be? Whereas out of the transfer portal, you know what a guy is. He's going to be 20, 21 years old. You're looking for that ready-made offensive line starter. That's where I go shell out the money for offensive line. And it's opposite for a quarterback. I don't think, unless you're in dire need, you think you're one piece away from being a conference championship type team. I don't think you go shell out money in the transfer portal for a quarterback because you're getting somebody's seconds. And simply put, that's what it is specifically with quarterbacks. If you have a starting quarterback at a Power 5, the odds that they're going to leave for another Power 5 are quite low unless they are scared of the competition in their own room. They think that the writing's on the wall for them.
Or they just want to go win at a higher level. I mean, look at Hartman at Wake Forest. He's killed it at Wake Forest for 2 years. He's been great. They've been a 9-win ranked team. They've gone to an ACC title game. Mm-hmm. He's done, brother. I'm going to Notre Dame. But that's the example. Look at Casey Thompson in Texas. Better opportunity in Nebraska. Of course, Casey was battling the Quinn Ewers effect. I mean, it's different, but I hear what you're saying.
If I've got the NIL money for a high school kid, I think it's crazy to say we're going after anyone but a quarterback. I understand that you want to have money left over. You want to have money to pay other guys. There's more to building a team than just quarterback play. But if you're talking about, you know what, we're going to get a 4 to 5 year commitment from a guy, the quarterback is the one place where you get a high-level kid out of high school. They could realistically step in and start as a freshman at the college level, and they might not be perfect their freshman year, but you see that a hell of a lot more in college football now than you ever have in the past. You can go get guys with the amount of quarterback training that high school kids get, with the amount of refinement and the amount of scouting that gets done from these kids from the age of 14. For the most part, you know what you're going to get. You can go shell out money for that high school kid, and you know what? If you get that high-level quarterback, a la Dylan Raiola, and I throw the name out there, I don't know of Dylan Raiola's NIL particulars at all, to be honest with you. But what I do know is that if Dylan Raiola would commit to Nebraska, there's the butterfly effect. Who's going to be following Dylan Raiola? Who's going to say, you know what, I want to go win with him? And they give me all right NIL money. I'm going to win. I'll be able to take care of myself while I'm at Nebraska. That's going to work out for me. I think quarterback's the easy answer coming out of high school for where you want to put your NIL money, but that changes as you look at transfer portal additions. I think it's a completely different story depending on if a kid is 18 and on their first stop or if they're 21 years old and on their second or third college stop.
And it is absolutely different, and you might be better off going and getting a portal quarterback than finding a quarterback that'll stick with you more than a year, whether he can or can't take the bumps on the chin as a true freshman, or is he going to be patient enough to redshirt and develop? Ohio State's run of quarterbacks, okay, those guys all at least got a redshirt year before they came in and performed. Tua had to wait, right?
Kind of.
Well, I mean, he came in and put his Superman cape on in the championship game. But the point is he was behind Hurts, right? And then took over the job. Mac Jones had to wait 4 years He's rare, but he stuck around, became a first-round pick. Bama's a different animal. Spencer Bennett, look how good he is, and look at the support system around him. He's a walk-on, right?
But for every one of those guys, you have the Trevor Lawrence, number one kid coming out of high school, forces the senior to transfer out because he's coming in and winning the starting job. You have Caleb Williams at Oklahoma, where he wasn't the starter at the beginning of the year, but 4 games in, he wins the job and he forces Spencer Rattler out. He's into the transfer portal, and Caleb Williams obviously goes off to USC and wins a Heisman. So there's 2 sides to every single coin. I don't think you should sit here and say that every single high-level quarterback is going to sit for a year, because that's not every single guy. But what you can say is all those guys.
There's fewer Trevor Lawrences that come in and oust a Taj Boyd who went to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
That's really, really rare. But you're seeing more incumbents just go look for a better spot to win. That's why they'll leave. I think this, though, to your point about the portal versus the high school recruiting and NIL component, the great quarterback that you're going to invest in, brother, you better have a lot of money in your coaching staff for development, to have a run game, to have an offensive line, to have those supporting cast members so that phenom can go thrive. We'll wind down a Friday next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Friday, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. And, Brennan, I will do that. Junior took my Spearfish golf hat. It's down in his room on his hat rack. I will wear that when I get out and swing the clubs. I wanted to swing the clubs tomorrow. Can't do it. It's going to be 48 degrees.
Well, you can.
Yes, I'm whining.
Okay, I was going to say you can realistically do it barring the rain, but you're just not built different.
Yeah, as long as I suck it up, right? Let's hear from Elijah Judy, Husker defensive tackle. We've talked a lot about NIL. We've talked about portal or high school or the going rate. Steve is right. We do have a recruit to tell you about, a 4-star guard, Elijah, that Coach Hoiberg landed today. And I want to say,
I'm going to be straight up and 100% honest with you. This dropped during the show. I haven't had time to do my research. I don't know much about the kid, so I'll shoot you straight, Steven. If I knew more, I'd let you know. I'll do some research tonight, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow morning in the Saturday morning show. I don't know all that much about this new kid, though. I've been focused on the transfer portal with Nebraska basketball. So,
yeah, we've been focusing on portal. Friend of the show, Jacob Padilla, will have a write-up here on Nick Jaworski. He's out of Wisconsin. He's a 4-star and the first commit for 2024. Looks like he's a lefty. I love lefties. And pretty good length, pretty good size, good from distance. And a quote here on Twitter from Robin Washut of On3. You have this quote from Robin and from the recruit, that's Nick Jaworski. I chose Nebraska because I feel it is a perfect fit for my game. Coach Hoiberg has the program headed the right direction, and I want to take my talents to the next level. So, listen, it's about development. There's a lot of belief there. Fred can be a guy that can get you to some sort of professional basketball, and his style of play, while redefined now, Elijah, defensively, is still about pace and about space and good work. I have disturbing news. Junior's team is down 4-1. I might be the good luck charm. I am not Jobu's rum. I'm not even Jobu in the locker. I'm not going to bring a live chicken or a bucket of chicken. Maybe a snake. Maybe I'll draw some blood. Maybe things will turn around for Junior's ball club.
That's really only disturbing news, though, if Junior's on the mound. That's the thing. There's always a chance for him to get up to the plate.
pitched last night. He pitched last night. He came in. Bases were loaded. And it was either run rule time with Junior coming in because they were getting smoked. So why the hell not put him on the mound? Or hold him and put a rally together. And I'm going to brag for 2 seconds to wear you out about my kid. Sorry. He came in, allowed just one run. He did walk a run in with the bases loaded. He ran all the way home for doing so last night, but he got 2 outs. Hey, that's a far cry from his first outing.
Hey, and you know who that run goes
and he was
against?
good at the plate.
That run goes against the former
night.
pitcher either. That's a
No,
zero
I
in the ERA.
I know it does. But he's got to throw strikes. We'll have some Elijah Judy tomorrow, I promise. Mark Cranack tomorrow morning at 7:30. Myself, Elijah Herbel. Weekend edition podcast. Find it with Hail Varsity, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Take care.